Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Todd Christensen. I'm the SVP of Advancement and Member Experience at Capit Credit Union. We're glad to be here with you. We're a credit union dedicated to education, and that's why we've created and are presenting this financial well-being webinar series that we've called Lunch Money. So we've got a great group of folks who have joined us here today, and we have a continued conversation around cybersecurity, protecting yourself in the digital age. And with that, let me introduce and welcome back Toby King, Capit Credit Union's Chief Information Officer, or CIO, and he'll be taking us through the presentation as a follow-up from last Tuesday. So welcome, Toby, and I'll turn it over to you. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Oh, a couple quick items, sorry, before I give it back to you, Toby. Please open up your chat window if you'd like to share any questions with us that we can answer at the end of the presentation or include information on our website. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted at capedcu.com/lunchmoney. Sorry about that, Toby. Now, Toby, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Todd, very much. And thank you for all who have joined us here this afternoon. If you were on the webinar on Tuesday, this is going to be a follow-up with a slide deck to convey some additional information. This is going to be more practical than what was shared on Tuesday. I know that I came at you with a lot of information Tuesday, and I'm going to slow it down just a little bit today. And after the presentation, Todd will also make available to you a PDF of what I present, which includes links to specific web pages where you can go and follow up if you would like to for some of the information presented. So with that, I'm going to get in. So steps to protect oneself in the digital age. So how can we avoid, as best we can, becoming victims of online crime? So number one, the first tip I want to share is that you have to have the realization that we are all vulnerable and susceptible to potential hacking. We can't say that it won't ever happen to us because we're all at risk and the stakes are very high, our personal and financial well-being. So it's our responsibility to keep our own computing resources secure. And with the following tips and staying vigilant, we can do everything that is within our power to protect ourselves to the extent that we can. So tip number two is it's extremely important to keep software up to date. By and large, new computers, whether you have Macintosh or you have Windows, by default, they are set to automatically download updates for the operating system. Sometimes people will go in and tinker with settings and not realize that they perhaps have turned that off. So it's a really great idea to ensure that your operating system is automatically updating itself, as well as any other applications that you are using on your system. To enable them with automatic updating will really help to stave off any potential problems that may result from not staying up to date. Also very critical is to use a web browser that automatically gets security updates and that frequently does so. By and large, these days, most browsers operate that way. There used to be more of a problem in the days where Internet Explorer by Microsoft dominated this space. Nowadays, Chrome is the #1 browser, and I'll bet that a lot of you are viewing this today using Chrome. At any rate, Chrome and Firefox are two of the better browsers, in my opinion, to use. And to ensure that you are as secure as possible, make sure that updates are being applied to them. It's also very critical that if you use browser plugins, such as Java, that those are kept up to date. Oracle, which bought Java a while ago through a Sun Microsystems acquisition, stopped providing as frequent updates. And so it's very critical that if you have applications on your PC that you don't need, that you also uninstall those if you're not keeping them up to date. There is a link that I provide here. It's called patchmypc.net. This will be in the PDF Todd shares with you, so you don't need to jot that down now. And that is a really great utility that's free that will scan your computer for updates for third-party applications too. because like many of you, I have a lot of applications on my home PC. And if I don't stay on top of it, then I can forget to do one or the other. So I highly recommend using a general scanner and a patch manager. Also very critical to update what's called firmware. That's the embedded software that is installed on devices. And with the increasing prevalence of the Internet of Things, which refers to any device being able to connect to the internet, it's very critical to keep the firmware updated on those devices, because those can be a channel for rendering your home network vulnerable to potential hacking. Things like cameras and increasingly appliances, even refrigerators are coming with software in them now. And it's very important that as you buy those products that you understand how it is they are to get updated. And if they have default simple passwords, that those get changed. So anyone who can access your network now suddenly can't take over control of the device. There was a recent example in the news actually, where for proof of concept, a hacker was able to take over someone's coffee maker in their house. And I, for one, would not appreciate that in the morning. So highly recommend that firmware is kept up to date and default security settings are changed. Number 3, to avoid phishing scams. I talked a lot about phishing on Tuesday. Phishing is the act of tricking somebody into providing sensitive information via typically an email, but also can be through text messaging or instant messaging, some sort of electronic communication. And phishing scams are a constant threat. As mentioned the other day, about 1 in 25 emails is now thought to be a phishing email. It uses various ploys, as we discussed Tuesday, and people are trying to get your information to take advantage of you financially and to undermine your ability to protect yourself. So be suspicious of any official-looking email message or phone call that asks for personal or financial information. CapEd or any financial institution is never going to call you to have you verify what your password is, or ask you for a full social security number, anything like that. The institutions you trust with your information that you're doing business with already have that information. So they would only ever ask you possibly if you initiate the call to verify you are who you are with partial information. So be very wary of that. Let's move on to the next slide here. Good password management. We all have way too many passwords to manage, and it's easy to take shortcuts like reusing the same password. A password manager can help you maintain strong, unique passwords for all of your accounts. These programs can generate strong passwords for you, enter credentials automatically, and remind you to update your passwords periodically. There are several password management services that offer free versions. KeePass is a free one that we use here at CapEd and is available for Mac and Windows. There are some good general password tips to keep in mind. So I referred to password on the previous slide, but honestly, it's better to use a passphrase. Rather than a bunch of very complex alphanumeric arrangements, it's actually a better password and harder to crack by hackers to just simply use a longer password, and typically you can select something that is much easier to memorize. So for example, the passphrase on the screen that you see there in italics, exactly who chose blue turf with a question mark with the spaces between each word, is a much, much more difficult passphrase or password to crack than the next one in italics, which is a variation of the word Broncos with zeros substituting for O's and a Z and an exclamation point. Because of the shortness of that password, even though it is typically following what people are advised to do in setting passwords in terms of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, the passphrase, exactly who chose blue turf, is way better. And these can obviously be selected to indicate something personal. So if I love to read books, I could have it say, I really love reading books with spaces, and that is a very good passphrase. If you're not using a passphrase, then I do recommend that you use the strong mix of characters and never use the same password for multiple sites. Do not share your passwords and don't write them down, especially not on a Post-it note attached to your monitor. Update your passwords periodically, at least once every 6 months, but 90 days is better. And again, if you use a password manager application, it can really alleviate the frustration of having all of these different passwords and trying to keep track of them. It's as simply as copying and pasting from the password manager into the web page or whatever application you're using that is prompting you for the password. Be careful what you click on. When you visit unknown websites or you attempt to download software from untrusted sources, this can open up a can of worms. These sites often host malware that will automatically and often silently compromise your computer. If attachments or links in email are unexpected or suspicious for any reason, do not click on them. If something appears to have come from someone you know, but you weren't really expecting it, text or call them to make certain whether or not they actually sent it to you. This is one of the top ways that people develop problems on their computers, because they receive an email, they're used to, or they get a post in Facebook or something, and it looks like it's from a friend of theirs. And if their friend's account has been taken over and they're targeting you, then that is, it kind of has us drop our guard. And that's what is part of what's called social engineering. And the criminals out there are aware of that, and they attempt to take advantage of that at every turn. Do not ever leave your device unattended. Of course, if you're alone in your house with your computer, that's not really something to worry about. But if you're at a Starbucks coffee shop, or you're at the library, or anywhere, it's very important to ensure that nobody actually get access to your device, whether it's a mobile device or a laptop, or a computer if you were to have, say, your children's friends in the home, because people who know what they're doing can cause you big problems with just a few seconds. So the physical security of your devices is just as important as all of the technical security. If you need to leave your laptop, phone, or tablet for any length of time in a public area, be sure to lock it up or lock the screen so that nobody can use it. If you keep sensitive information on a flash drive or thumb drive or an external hard drive, make sure to keep that locked up as well. For desktop computers, set the screen to lock with a password required to access. It's highly important to protect sensitive data, as we've discussed. In general, keeping sensitive data, so like social security numbers, credit card information, health information, off of your workstation, laptop, or mobile device is a critical piece of protecting your environment. That may seem a little bit extreme because you say, well, it's my own computer in my own home. If you have any of those pieces of sensitive information in, for example, a plain text file like Word, Microsoft Word, Notepad, or something like that, and somebody were to gain access to their system, they can immediately obtain that information and start to use it against you however they see fit. Securely remove sensitive data files from your system when they're no longer needed. Always use encryption when storing or transmitting sensitive data. Consider using Windows 10 Professional, which is often not the version that comes on a cheap PC you may buy from Walmart or online. Typically, those are coming with Home Edition. So Windows 10 Pro that has BitLocker encryption utility built in. Or if you're using, whether you're using Windows or Macintosh, there are several free encryption utilities that you can install to ensure that you have your hard drive encrypted. And the link that is within this PDF, the PDF that will be shared with you, contains several different applications that you can use. Always use mobile devices safely. Considering how much we rely on our mobile devices and how increasingly susceptible they are to attack, you'll want to make sure you are protected. Lock your device with Face ID on an iPhone, a PIN or password, and never leave it unprotected in public. Android does not have Face ID, but it does have equivalent types of tools. So it is very critical to use biometric authentication for your mobile device whenever you can. Only install apps from trusted sources. This mostly only affects Android. Apple maintains complete control over their hardware and software environment. And so it's very, very difficult for somebody to get a compromised app into the Apple App Store, although it has happened a few times. And when it has been discovered, Apple has even redoubled their efforts at ensuring that the bad guys are not able to infiltrate their App Store. But on an Android phone, it's a little more open season because of the nature of the way Google allows the carriers to install Android and you as the user to configure it. So it is possible that somebody can allow the installation of an app on an Android phone from an untrusted source. And an untrusted source means that there could be some malware embedded in the application. So be very leery of if somebody, a friend, a relative, somebody were to get your phone, or you were doing this yourself, to install something because they heard it was really cool and it's free, that can cause you big problems. So don't install from untrusted sources. Be sure that you keep your operating system updated. There is an option to automatically update the operating system when the updates are released. And I highly recommend that you configure your phones to do that, and tablets for that matter. Don't click on links or attachments from unsolicited emails or texts, the same as on traditional computing devices. Avoid transmitting or storing personal information on the device if it is unencrypted. Most handheld devices are capable of employing data encryption. You'll have to consult your device's documentation for available options. If you use Apple's Find My iPhone or the Android Device Manager tools to help prevent loss or data theft, then that would really be an great additional tool to have in your arsenal. And be sure to always back up your data. All the different computing devices have the option to do automatic backups. It's very, very critical to back up data, especially in light of what I mentioned for those of you who were on the webinar Tuesday, can happen within a ransomware attack. If you don't have a backup and you get ransomware on your system, this really is more for desktop computers at this point. But if you don't have a backup and you don't want to negotiate with the person who has compromised your system, then it's very critical to have that backup, or else they may not deliver even if you pay them to give you the decryption key, and you will be out of luck. So very critical for data backups. Also, make sure that you have antivirus and anti-malware protection on your devices. With a caveat, I will say it's probably not quite as critical at this point in history to do it on a mobile device. However, the big players in this market do now include anti-malware apps for mobile devices. And typically when you buy a license, if you're buying one, it allows you to install on many devices, whether traditional desktop type computers or mobile devices. And so you may as well take advantage of that. At any rate, if you do have an anti-malware antivirus application, it's very critical to make sure that the virus definitions and the other updates for that application are being installed regularly. It's the only way to ensure that the application remains effective, because every day, even every hour, the attacks change and the application needs to be able to look to see what are the new techniques, what are the new threats out there. Bitdefender Free is a popular free anti-malware app for Windows-based systems. Avast is a popular free one for Mac OS. If you're going to purchase an app, be sure it's a next generation type, such as Bitdefender Total Security. I don't want to endorse a specific product typically. I don't get any kind of royalties from the company. I will share with you that Bitdefender, in my opinion, is a very good application. It's what I use on my own home computer and my children's. And this particular application protects up to 5 devices for a year for only $35 for the license. So that's very good value. However, as I said, there are some good free ones. Make sure to back up your data. As just mentioned, ransomware can cause you a very bad day, and even just having a hard drive crash. And so in addition to backing up data, you can create an image of your computer's operating system and applications. An image essentially is one very large file that contains everything. So if you get a new computer and you get all your applications installed, you can take an image backup, and typically you would save that to a very large thumb drive or a large external hard drive. Then if you have a major problem from a software update or you have a hard drive crash, you can take that image backup, get a blank hard drive, install the image onto the blank hard drive, and you don't have to go through all the rigmarole of installing Windows separately or Mac OS and that kind of a thing. And then if you have a lot of data on there when you take your image backup, that would also be included. So I highly recommend that. I have 2 links right here that will instruct you how you can go about doing that if you're not aware of how to do that. Some additional tips to help keep you safe and secure online. Ensure that you use a firewall. Both Macintosh operating system and Windows have basic desktop firewalls as part of their code base, and they can obviously help you protect you from external attacks. I highly recommend that you do not turn those off. You may not want to use it exclusively. Oftentimes you're going to have a router for your home network, and that typically functions as a hardware-based firewall as well. But on your operating systems, you're going to also want to run firewall. If you are connecting to public wireless hotspots, use them wisely. And I have a link there with these tips hyperlinked for staying safe. I will say that it is very possible if somebody is wanting to compromise your data, let's say on a mobile device, and your phone is set to always scan for your home wireless network, there are devices that can be bought for relatively inexpensively. And essentially, they look to see what the names of the home networks, or what are called SSIDs, what the names of those wireless networks are. And they will actually respond to your mobile device to indicate that it has connected. You're not going to be aware of this because it's just in your pocket and it's not going to show you anything on the screen. But anyways, if you're looking for my home network, this device will respond and say, you have connected to my home network. Your phone thinks that it is the actual home network. And then there's any data that starts being transmitted by your phone automatically could be intercepted through that bad actor's device, which is posing as your home wireless network. So in general, you don't want to log into, like, say, a healthcare site or banking on some random wireless network that you're using for free. Be conscientious of what you plug into your computer. Flash drives and even smartphones can contain malware. Be careful of what you share on social networking sites. Monitor your accounts for suspicious activity. Bank or shop online only on trusted devices and networks, and log out of these sites when you've completed your transactions. Use multi-factor authentication wherever it is offered for additional security. So multi-factor authentication refers to an additional layer of security beyond just entering your username and password. For example, if your email provider or your financial institution offers the option to receive a one-time code sent to you via text message, which you must enter in addition to the password, take advantage of that. Essentially, that means something that you know, your password, and something that you have, your mobile device, are required to gain access to that sensitive site. even if somebody were to steal your password, unless they also stole your physical phone, it would be very difficult for them to log in as you. Do not save passwords in browsers on shared computers if you wouldn't provide your password to anyone else who shares that computer. Use a separate profile for everyday computer use that is not an administrator account, and log in with the administrator account only to update software. And have the two links there for Windows 10 and for Macintosh to show you how to do that if you're not aware. Always hover over links like the two above before clicking on them in email or web pages to see where you're actually being directed to. So for example, that Windows 10 setup link right there is what I typed. But if you hover, by default, computers are going to, the operating systems are going to show you exactly where that's going to take you. So if what shows in the little hover tooltip does not match what's typed, you can be sure that there is something afoul with that link. And I would highly recommend you do not click on it. Subscribe to alerts for all networked devices used after registering your device with the manufacturer. So for your wireless router or for your wireless camera in your house or what have you, you want to register it with the manufacturer and ensure that you would get either via email or text any kind of alerts that the company would send out to inform you that there has been a vulnerability found in the software on that device and that there is an update for it so that you can install it promptly. There is a wonderful gentleman named Brian Krebs who runs a site called KrebsOnSecurity.com. And he is an investigative journalist. I believe he started his career with the Washington Post. And so he has a wonderful writing style. There is a lot of technical jargon, but he explains it well. And he writes, he's one of the first to release really in-depth articles on some of the most recent threats, major breaches, things like that. And if you want to be an informed digital citizen, it's just a great site to go to. So highly recommend bookmarking that and viewing it maybe once per week or a couple times a month. And you can just kind of read about what is happening in the world of the internet. Another great suggestion is to freeze your credit at all three credit bureaus. So Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And Congress, I believe it was earlier this year, late last year, they mandated that all Americans be able to do this for free after the major Equifax breach in 2017. And the link there shows you, or sorry, walks you through how to go about doing that if you haven't done that. So, I'm sorry about that. So that's all I had for today. I am happy to take any questions if any are posted in the chat. And otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to you, Todd Christensen.
Great.
Do we have any questions so far?
We don't have any questions in the chat. If you want to open up your chat and ask any of the questions there, go ahead and leave that there, Toby. But I do have a question. If you find yourself hacked, where do you best go? You go to your malware service provider? Do they help you navigate if you've been hacked, if you will?
Well, that's a good question. So if it were to involve a failure of the application, your anti-malware application provider may offer you some services. Typically, they are not going to get involved into specific problems on your computer. It's going to be mostly with the functionality of that application. If you do get hacked, you, for the most part, are on your own. If you don't have a friend or a relative to help you, you would also have the option of, say, contacting some IT services provider that will assist end users, perhaps Best Buy, Geek Squad, things like that. But there's little recourse outside of you and your own elbow grease, to be honest with you.
Okay, thank you for that. I actually started to have a little bit of a coughing fit, so nice to be able to turn the camera and the mic off in the digital age to be able to take a quick drink of water. Thanks for that. We have a question here. how often do you check your online checking account? I guess I'd respond to that is, I guess that's up to your personal preference and interest, as long as if you're making sure that you're doing that in your secured environment and that you have a well-established password. Anything else on that, Toby, that you would add?
I think I heard the question and I agree with what you just said, but the question was how often you should log into your online banking to check
Yeah,
your
the
checking
question
account?
is, how often do you check your online checking account?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like you said, it's really a matter of preference. I can tell you that with CapEd's online banking system, we have the option to configure alerts, whether it's via email or text message, for various activities taken, actions taken within online banking. So for example, when I have any kind of a transaction that exceeds $10 on my checking account, I get an alert, an immediate alert from online banking. So I highly recommend that if you bank with CapEd, you configure that. Or if you're not with CapEd, that you look to see what your provider permits you to do.
Right. Okay. I don't see any other questions there. One of the tips that I heard one time and that I follow is to make sure when I'm on any website that take a look whether it's an HTTP or HTTPS to make sure that there are those security protocols in place.
Correct. So yeah, for any type of shopping or log into a sensitive site, so healthcare, financial, you want to ensure that the protocol does, as Todd stated, state HTTPS. The S stands for SSL, which is an encryption protocol, secure socket layer. And that indicates that any information exchanged between you and that site will be encrypted.
I always take a look at that, and when we're engaged in looking at items on the website, and especially if they're collecting any type of information, to make sure that security protocol or SSL is in place. So I don't see any other questions here, but just want to reiterate a couple of items that Toby has shared, that you'll be able to see this presentation, the recording, as well as the PDF that is referenced, and with all the links so that you can click on those. So do it appropriately, make sure that you're making sure it's going where it should go. Maybe there's a test in there. I don't know. Toby's can be a little sneaky on occasion of testing us all here at CapEd to make sure we're following appropriate protocols. But we'll have that PDF as well as this video presented on capedcu.com/lunch money. That'll be up here in the next couple of days. But on screen, we just want to share with a few folks, for those who may not yet be CapEd members, we extend the invitation to you to consider CapEd as your financial institution. We have a great promotion called Get 100 on our high yield checking account. That gives you the opportunity to receive $100 or get $100 after you've completed the simple qualifications that are presented here on the slide here. And then at account opening, you have an opportunity to select the school district, school, and program at that school where you would like to give $100. Our indication here in the slide is we've given over 150,000. We're actually approaching $200,000 that we have given to schools in the last two and a half years. That also means that we've given $200,000 or nearly $200,000 to our new members. So we'd invite you to consider that. And if you are a CapEd member, share that with family and friends. We always appreciate referrals. So we as a financial institution can continue to grow and support you and new members and our community. And then Toby, if you'd hit the next slide here, we'll round out our conversation today with information on the upcoming and 3 final webinars that we have as part of the Lunch Money webinar series. This coming Tuesday on November 10th, Albert King, our VP of Treasury Management. This one is geared towards businesses, but also valuable to individuals who may have an interest in better understanding what the term treasury management means. Albert will be talking about an integrated approach to business banking and cash management. And he actually has developed a presentation that talks about considerations during a pandemic. So if you have business interests, please tune into that one. We welcome back Kent and Nick from Tree City Advisors on the 12th, and they will be making a presentation about debt, loans, and taxes. and how that all plays into your financial management strategy as an individual. And then we round out the 13 session series with Casey Taylor, our VP of Commercial Lending, and again, a business topic on businesses need money and how to get that. So again, we appreciate everybody coming today. We appreciate your attendance and have a great afternoon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.